So, this is the portion of my brother's story where I talk about his suicide. My brother committed suicide August 16th, 2015. And it was a shock. But looking back, it shouldn't have been. And I could say the same about his addiction. I actually feel like you grieve twice if you lose an addict, because you're grieving the person that they were and then grieving again if and when they pass. But you still have that hope. You never give up that hope, and I think that's where the shock came in for me, is I had always hoped that he would get sober and find his happiness here. I blamed myself a lot for a while, and 2 days later, my friend who is an addiction specialist in another state, who I had opened up many times to about my brother, and who had offered to help him in many ways, many different times, when I told him how I was feeling, because I was a hard ass. I admit it. I was very hard on my brother. But I know in my heart that I was always hard on him because it was my way of giving tough love. It wasn't because I hated him. It wasn't... Yeah, I hated the disease. I hated who it made him. But I never hated him, and I always had hope that he would come back. So what my friend said to me was, "You're still sick with his disease." And it's true. It really is a family disease. You go through your own process. And I don't care what happens to your loved one, whether they go on to have 20, 30 years of sobriety, or if they end up passing like my brother did. You go through it. And it's your own. Like, just because they're gonna get sober doesn't mean everything goes away. And that's what made my brother's passing so hard, is that he was so up and down in his sobriety that we were still working on our own. Well, I'll speak for myself. I was still working on my own feelings about his addictions and how I was coping with them and how I was handling them, and grieving, like I said, my little brother, who really wasn't there anymore when he was still there. And then you get it hit with, okay, he really died. And it's like, well, okay then. That sucks. And like I said, I blamed myself. And it was interesting because 2 nights before he actually died, because I was, like I said, constantly reaching out to people to help me deal with his addiction, and him if he was ever, wanting help from me, because like I said, he was going to a program, but I always felt he needed something more, so I was always looking and searching. So I had gone to a local meeting that friends of mine had started up a program, and one of our friends' sons actually took his own life. That's as far as I'll go into it, because, I don't have permission, but this is just part of the story. It does tie together. So his mother ended up driving me home. And she said, "Tell Nick to please reach out. We don't want him to end up the way that her son did." Lo and behold, the next day I would have found out that he was already gone the day before I went to that meeting. He passed on a Monday. I went to the meeting on Tuesday and found out that he passed Wednesday, which was crazy to me. And I was numb for a long time. I was numb. You don't go through the grieving process, the feelings of grief, in order. Trust me. It goes back and forth. And so I was upset. I was angry. I was angry for a lot of reasons, because while I don't think that suicide is selfish, let me make that clear. When you commit suicide, you're hurting and you only see one way out of that pain. But it is true, as the outsider, as the family, you're leaving your hurt with them. It doesn't feel good. They're not better off without you. And that's what a lot, I know my brother felt that way. He had said it. And we tried to help him. But even his, counselors and stuff, there's only so much you can do, I've realized. And not only that, but it's never a spur of the moment thing. When they tell you or hint at it, they've already decided. And now I'm not saying don't try, because there is a chance that, like, if you try to talk somebody out of it or reach out to help them, that will work. I'm not saying it never does, but for anybody who's feeling guilty, chances are there's nothing you could have done. And we went to my uncle's house, who ironically we just lost in September to a heart attack. And my brother and I's longtime babysitter and family friend had come over as soon as she heard, to my uncle's house. And it's funny, because as soon as she got done hugging me, I had this, like, really, really strong vision and feeling of a younger version of my brother running to my dad, and my dad grabbing him. And that's the thing, is we lost my dad when my brother was just around 18. That's a hard age to lose a father who you were extremely close to. We both were. And I do realize he just wanted to be with my dad. And I'm not saying that that's a good, it's never a good reason to take your life. I'm not, it's a very hard place to be where you have such an understanding of why somebody did what they did, and realizing it's not your place to be okay with it or not, and yet also grieving that person. Would I rather him here and sober and, you know, have his own family by now, maybe? Yeah, I would. You're crazy if you don't. But I also know that since addiction is a disease, it helps me to cope, to think of it as he's not in pain anymore, and he's with my dad. And because it's been so hard, I really have been trying and would love to try to even expand my reach for the loved ones of addicts. And like I said, I don't care if you're the loved one of an addict who passed, a loved one of an addict who is still struggling, a loved one of an addict who is 20 years sober. You can still be feeling the same raw emotions that you need help or somebody to listen to in order to get through. So I'm extremely grateful to be able to share this. And I just hope that my story and the other stories on this channel help somebody.